Welcome into the Commander's Report. I'm your host, Jack Sperry. At the top of today's show, we'll have the latest on the Bobby Wagner's recent injury that he suffered in last week's win versus the Buccaneers and his status for this week's divisional matchup versus the Lions. Then we'll talk about the possibility of Kliff Kingsbury potentially interviewing for the Dallas Cowboys head coaching vacancy. And then we'll finish up today's show with a recent rumor from Bleacher Report that predicts that the Commanders are going to trade for Rams wide receiver Cooper Kupp this offseason to pair with Terry McLaurin. Before we get into the content today, guys, we are going to be going live for our live watch party for the divisional round of the playoffs versus the Detroit Lions. That game starts at 8 p.m. Eastern. We're going to be going live an hour before that. Me and Joey Peterson, we are going to be having yet another playoff watch party. Hopefully we can keep this party going with yet another Commanders victory. And the party starts at 7 p.m. Eastern, so make sure you guys click that subscribe button and join us on Saturday night. And we actually posted our preview for this game yesterday on the channel. So if you guys want to see my thoughts on this game, team trends, keys to victory, and my official score prediction, we put that out yesterday. So if you missed it, make sure you click the link in the comments and description. I'll also put the chip above me here. So if you want to check that out, you can go do that right now. So let's get into the injury update here on Bobby Wagner. And you really do not want Bobby to not be on the field versus the Detroit Lions. And he is dealing with an ankle injury this week. He started the week of practice not practicing. He missed practice on Tuesday. Now, that might just be precautionary, and I do expect Bobby to be on the field on Saturday night versus Detroit. I don't think that this is anything super serious. He was able to finish the game versus Tampa last Saturday, or last Sunday, I should say, and I think that he's going to be just fine, and he might be limited, maybe the athleticism and, the speed and all these different things aren't quite up to standard for what we've seen from him this season, which might really be a detriment to this Commanders defense, but in terms of his status and availability for Saturday, I do expect him on the field. Now we shift our focus here to offensive coordinator Kliff Kingsbury, and there's some speculation going around that Dallas might bring him in for an interview and hire him as the next head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. Now, why would Jerry Jones want to do that? Well, first of all, he's flirted with kind of the air raid offense before. There's rumors going around that he was interested in Lincoln Riley for a while. Of course, Kliff Kingsbury comes from kind of that air raid tree that started all the way back with Mike Leach in college football. And then also Washington took one of Jerry's coordinators last year in Dan Quinn, and obviously DQ has done a phenomenal job as the head coach here of the Commanders, so maybe now that Mike McCarthy is out of the picture in Dallas, that Jerry Jones might be looking to do the same thing and return the favor to the Washington Commanders, poaching their offensive coordinator that Jaden Daniels has worked so well with this season. Also, Kliff is a well-known figure in Texas football. He coached at Texas Tech for a very, very long time, and he's somebody that a lot of people in the Dallas area would be familiar with and might even want to be their next head coach. So listen, man, personally, I really, really hope this doesn't happen, all right? I really hope we're not seeing Kliff Kingsbury in a Dallas Cowboys, zip up next week or next year, because I think that the Commanders really benefit from him being here. I think Jaden Daniels is a perfect fit for the offense that he runs, and if Kliff leaves, I have my concerns about Dan Quinn and this team being able to adequately replace him as the offensive coordinator in this offense. You can always hire like Brian Johnson, who's on the staff, or Tavita Pritchard, who is the quarterback's coach, or you could do something like that and just keep the same scheme, but without the same play caller in there. I think there's certainly some concerns that I would have about this offense heading into year two with Jaden Daniels if Kliff isn't the one running the show. Some other teams that have requested interviews with Kliff, the Chicago Bears, who of course have Caleb Williams, who is very connected with Kliff Kingsbury. Kliff was his quarterback's coach in his final year there at USC last season. And then the New Orleans Saints as well have requested an interview as well. Personally, I don't think Kliff would leave the Commanders for the Saints. I just don't think that job is particularly a good one. They're over the cap for the 2025 season, so they're going to have to make some moves there. And the quarterback situation isn't fantastic there in New Orleans. So I think if Chicago or Dallas offered Kliff the job, I think that he would probably take those jobs. But the question is, will will he get those offers? And I surely hope that that doesn't happen. And the person I do hope the Dallas Cowboys hire is none other than Deion Sanders. Of course, there was a report earlier this week from Jordan Schultz that says that Jerry Jones and Deion Sanders have had conversations about Prime being the next head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. And what I got to tell Jerry Jones right now, man, please, please, please make this happen, all right? I need to see Deion Sanders coaching the Dallas Cowboys because personally, I don't think it would work. I don't think that he would be a good NFL head coach. I think that NFL players might respect him at first, but then if shit kind of hits the fan, I just don't think that his very authoritative style of coaching is really fits today's NFL culture. And I think it would be a complete disaster for the Dallas Cowboys. So as a Commanders fan, obviously we want this to happen. Plus, it would just be super entertaining to see Prime as the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. But we'll see what happens. I think Kellen Moore will be also an option that they consider. Robert Saleh is going to be interviewing for the job. That has been confirmed. So it's going to be interesting to see what the boys do at the head coaching position now that Mike McCarthy is out of town. And then in other coaching news here, Commanders defensive coordinator Joe Whitt Jr. is interviewing for the Jets head coaching job. And good for Joe, because I really like him, man. I think that he's a very no-nonsense guy. I think he's done a really good job here in Washington this season, but I don't think he's going to get the job. The Jets are interviewing like a million different people right now. This is the only team that has reached out to request an interview with Joe Whitt Jr., and I think the reason for that is that the defensive stats in total for Washington haven't been stellar. Now, I think that Joe Whitt Jr.'s done a good job with this group because they had arguably the worst cornerback room in the National Football League this year, and you're still, maybe slightly below league average, but around league average in most of these categories. The only one where you're really below average is red zone defense. But I really do think that Joe Whitt Jr., once they start getting some more players in the cornerback room, once they start really filling things out on the defensive front this offseason as well, I think coming into 2025, this defense is gonna be borderline top 10, if not bona fide top 10. And I think that Joe Whitt Jr. next cycle is going to be somebody that teams are really looking at. He reminds me a little bit of Mike Tomlin in the way that he speaks, his no-nonsense approach to coaching, and the way that he really believes in his players. So I'm really a big fan of Joe Whitt Jr. I think at some point he does deserve a chance to be a head coach in this league. Only question is, can he get that job done in future seasons? And then will a team give him a shot? So predict it for me down there in the comments section. Shifting our focus back to Kliff Kingsbury here. Will Kliff be back as this team's offensive coordinator next season? Simply give me a yes or a no down there in the comments section. For me, if I have to have my best guess right now, guys, I would say yes, but let me know your thoughts down there in the comments section for today's pinned comment. In just a second here, I'm going to tell you about our sponsor here at Game Time. And while I'm talking about Game Time, give me a yes or a no down there in the comments. And with that, let's have a word from our sponsor here at Game Time, which is the best place for you to buy tickets for the sports, music, comedy, and theater in your area. Game Time has a brand new feature on their app called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff, so you only get incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. All you have to do is select the Game Time Picks button at the top of the screen when you get into an event you want to go see, and Game Time automatically filters through their entire database of tickets to find you the best deals with the best seats, the best views, all that great stuff with the best prices. And what I love about using the Game Time app is you get the lowest price guarantee on any ticket to any event, all in pricing so you don't get slapped with a crazy fee at checkout, and flash deals so you can get even cheaper tickets the closer you wait to game time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time today. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHATSPORTS. It's one word, all caps, CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, it's just create an account with Game Time and redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. So Bleacher Report predicts that the Washington Commanders are going to trade for Cooper Kupp, Rams wide receiver, next offseason to pair with Terry McLaurin and Jaden Daniels for next season. This was in an article written by Maurice Moten, who writes for Bleacher Report, and this is what he had to say about this potential deal. Kupp has missed 18 games over the last 3 years because of injuries. He hasn't topped 812 receiving yards since he won the Triple Crown receiving title in 2021. Furthermore, Puka Nacua has emerged as the Rams' go-to receiver. Los Angeles could find a number 2 receiver in the upcoming draft. Though Kupp's receiving numbers have declined, he's a reliable chain mover who can be a safety blanket for a developing quarterback. The Washington Commanders can help Jaden Daniels with this move. Washington's offense needs a number 2 wide receiver option. Washington is a playoff team ahead of its rebuild schedule. With $96 million in cap space, it could be a landing spot for an established veteran like Kupp who can fill one of the club's key needs. So this was the proposed trade from Maurice here, and he would send Cooper Kupp to the Commanders, and Washington would send to the Rams a 3rd-round pick and a 7th-round pick in the 2025 NFL draft. Now, another thing to keep in mind here in terms of this trade is that the Commanders would owe Kupp $20 million against the cap in 2025. So, yes, the Commanders have the cap space to make this move. They got almost $100 million in cap space currently for 2025, and after they make their cuts, after they restructure guys, it's going to be well over $100 million. So they can afford Cooper Kupp, but you take a look here at his numbers, and as Maurice points out, since he had that incredible season where he had almost 2,000 yards receiving, and he averaged over 13 yards per catch and 16 touchdowns. One of the greatest seasons we have ever seen from a wide receiver, arguably the greatest wide receiver season ever in that 2021 season. He's missed quite a few games with injury in these last 3 years. That ankle just can't stay healthy, and he hasn't surpassed 1,000 yards in that time. And he's still averaging a first down per reception. He's still pretty efficient in that regard, but he is certainly somebody that has maybe lost his standing as an elite wide receiver in the National Football League. He's not even the number 1 receiver on his own team right now. So, I think that money, that $20 million that could go to Cooper Kupp, might be better spent elsewhere. This is a team that needs to make serious changes along the offensive line. They need to make serious changes to the cornerback room. I do think that those 2 positions are very, very important for Adam Peters to address. Now, that doesn't mean he can't get a wide receiver, but I also think that Adam Peters is going to get Scary Terry an extension. I mean, Terry has been unbelievable this year, and, his connection with Jaden Daniels is superb, and he has had an all-pro caliber season, in my opinion, this year. So I think that Terry, going into a contract next year, is going to want to get paid. He's going to want to get himself locked up for the future here in Washington, and I think they're going to get a deal done. So paying another veteran wide receiver a big contract in Cooper Kupp, I'm not sure makes a ton of sense. I think what makes more sense is that Adam Peters is going to draft a number 2 receiver instead of trading for one. We've talked about this on the show before, but the top guys that could be available in the first couple of rounds here. Now, the top guys here, T-Mac out of Arizona is definitely not going to be there by the Commanders pick. I would be surprised if Luther Burden III, Emeka Egbuka, and Matthew Golden are there. Maybe one of those guys falls to you in the first round, but some guys to keep your eye on here in the middle rounds. Aya Maynor out of Stanford is a really big body. Same thing with Savion Williams out of TCU. Xavier Restrepo out of Miami is somebody to keep your eye on. Jaden Higgins, Jack Beck, and then Jalen Royals are the rest of the top 10 on PFF's big board right now in terms of the top wide receiver draft prospects. And I would certainly say that any one of these guys would be a solid number 2 option for Jaden Daniels heading into future seasons. So let me know down there in the comment section, would you accept this trade if you were GM Adam Peters and bring Cooper Kupp to the nation's capital to be a safety blanket for Jaden Daniels moving forward? Type A if you would accept it, or type D if you would decline it. For me, I'm declining this, guys, and I am taking my number 2 wide receiver in the early rounds of the 2025 NFL Draft. Make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already. Thanks for making it to the end of today's edition of the Commanders Report. Tomorrow, we've got more Commanders content coming your way. And, of course, on Friday, we've got the latest injury updates going into Saturday night's matchup with the Detroit Lions. Again, we're going to be going live for that game, guys, 7 p.m. Eastern time on Saturday night. So make sure you click that subscribe button and join us on Saturday.